Good evening to all our listeners, and we are joined today with Vaughan Luck. We're going to talk about how abortion affects men. Now, we won't be able to capture every single part of it, but we'll try and do as much as we can, because we know abortion affects women, it affects families, but just because the lady is carrying the baby doesn't mean that it doesn't affect men.
Correct.
So I don't want to speak anymore. And we just want to welcome our brother Vaughan Luck, and he's going to tell us a bit about himself and what he's part of when it comes to pro-life issues.
Thanks, Denzil. It's always awesome to be asked to come and be part of Good News Community Radio, the station that brings you hope, and to be on air, and also meeting Denzil for the first time before we started the program, having a bit of a chat. Really, really cool guy. So I know that I'm in safe hands while I'm on the airwaves here. And like Denzil said, we're discussing pro-life issues, but from the viewpoint of men. But before we can even get into that section, it's important to understand, because October is coming up. And this is why we're doing such a lot of pro-life programming on Good News Community Radio for the last couple of weeks leading up to the 6th of October. So for those that don't know, now you know. October is a month we know we are always focusing on social justice issues, gender-based violence. There's a lot of marches that happen in October across the country for various things. But we've been running the March for Life South Africa, which is run by the NAL. Denzil, I think this is where you want me to go with this.
Yeah.
The National Alliance for Life is an umbrella organization, and our main focus is this. We provide resources and we provide speakers for any pro-life organization in South Africa, because you can't get anywhere if you've got, say, 50 or 60 small little pro-life organizations dotted all over the country, but they're all working independently.
Yeah, true.
They are not working together. They don't come together. They don't understand what each other's doing because they're doing all their own thing, and it tends to be scattered. Now, if you look at America, for an example, where Roe versus Wade happened in 1973, and it was then overturned a couple of years ago by the Supreme Court, and it went back down from a national level down to a federal level in America down to what they call a state level, where states can now govern themselves. Some states have gone the route of banning abortion completely. Some states have gone the other route and allowed abortion right up until 9 months. A day before the baby is born, that baby is allowed to be aborted. Now, we unfortunately can't talk about that on radio because it's very graphic. But for those that want to know, you can go to the abortionprocedures.com website. And they've got all 4 trimester abortion procedures there for you to have a look at. And it's done in an animated format. So it's not too graphic. And you can actually use these videos as tools to show people who might be pro-abortion what happens. Because they don't teach people these things anymore, even in biology. You don't get taught this. You get told this is a clump of cells. This isn't a real person yet, or it isn't a human until it's got a certain level of development. So if you're in the womb, you are less of a person, you are smaller, you are undeveloped, your environment is different because you're inside the womb, not outside the womb. All of these things count. But National Alliance for Life here in South Africa is here to bring all the pro-life organizations that want to be part of an umbrella organization. There's no yearly membership fees or anything like that. You can just go onto the NAL website, which is nal.org.za. And you can get hold of the guys there. And all we do is provide a loose umbrella for guys to say, hey, we're part of something bigger here in South Africa. And we are trying to roll back the Termination of Pregnancies Act, which was signed in 1997 here in South Africa. So we've already had the whole Gen Z generation grow up with abortion being legal. For guys like me who are just a little bit older, we know what it's like to live in a society that was pre-abortion, where it was illegal to have an abortion. So NAL does all that it can in South Africa to promote pro-life issues, to facilitate lively discussions. We are not talking about debating someone here. We are talking about constructive dialogue, where we can lift up and build up communities and create community-based projects surrounding mothers in crisis. Because, Denzil, in South Africa alone, I mean, in the last 2 years, if you look at the SA stats, we've had, forget about abortion, just the amount of teenage pregnancies that we have in South Africa, over 90,000 registered teenage mothers under the age of 19. 600 of those, if we want to go right down, were between the ages of 11 and 14.
Sure.
Now, for those of you that might have 11-year-old girls at home, you look at your daughter who's 11 years old, try and imagine her pregnant. It is a very shocking kind of thing to go, wait, we had 600 of these 11, 12, 13-year-old girls who were pregnant in South Africa who registered. Now, these are only the ones that have registered as mothers. We know that there are a lot more than that. So we've got a big problem in South Africa with the way we educate our young people, with the way we do things, with the way we say it's okay to experiment. And even if everything fails and you fall pregnant, you as a young girl under the age of 18, you can walk into any government clinic for free. You don't have to ask your parents' consent. It doesn't have to. You can walk in, whether you're 15, 14, 16, and you can say, I'm pregnant, I want to have abortion. As long as you are less than 12 weeks pregnant, you can have an abortion, a chemical abortion here in South Africa. And even now, which actually shocks me quite a lot, because even if you speak to gynecologists about this, actual doctors who might even be doing abortions, they will tell you that even a chemical abortion should not be done without medical supervision. But I see now, and I'm not going to mention the names because we don't want to draw attention to them, but there are certain medical insurance companies, and obviously we all know Mary Stopes in South Africa as the private abortion provider. You can now order your abortion pills online and get them delivered to your door via telephone or via websites, and you can then take these tablets at home alone and induce your abortion chemically up until 12 weeks in South Africa without medical supervision.
Wow.
Denzil, the complications for that alone, we could talk for hours about. But like I said, the guys can go to abortionprocedures.com and they've got all of the complications that happen. And that is why you need to have a doctor present. Now, obviously, Denzil, we come on now. We both know that even though it's the mother that we're talking about now with these problems, it's the baby that's dying.
That's true.
And this is the issue we've got with pro-life, is the fact that you can go and terminate a human life, not a fetus, not a clump of cells. You can go and terminate a life. Oh, because why? Let's talk about the top two things on why women have abortions before we get on to the men's side of it and actually what happens with the man, because we are often overlooked. And that doesn't mean we want to take the limelight away from the ladies, because obviously they are carrying the child, but men find themselves in a very dark place all alone most of the time when it comes to abortion in South Africa and worldwide, because we have no rights whatsoever to even say we don't want you to terminate that baby. It's only the mother's choice. The man has no say. Even in a marriage, a husband cannot legally stop his wife from having an abortion if she wants to have an abortion. You don't have a right as a man, because you are not a part of the equation in the modern world.
True.
The problem is it takes two to tango.
Yeah.
We all know this.
Yeah.
And scientifically, it takes an unfertilized egg and a sperm cell to come together to create, in conception, that moment of fertilization where life then starts from 1 cell to 2 cells to 4 cells to 8 cells to zygotes to the whole little cell impregnating itself into the womb. On the wall of the uterus, the little cell fixates itself there and starts growing and growing and growing. From that first moment, there is life, even if it's rudimentary life, because the arguments nowadays are like, yeah, but it can't think for itself. It's not self-aware. It's just cells. Although it might be human cells, does that really? Because now what happens is they separate humanity from personhood, Denzil, which is crazy for me, because they are saying, because it's in the womb and it's a small little thing that hasn't developed fully yet, it's not self-aware, it's not a person. How do you say that a human is not a person? It's like me saying to someone who's had a car accident and is brain damaged and cannot think for themselves that you are less of a person because you are less developed mentally than me because of your accident. It's like me walking up to someone, and it's very difficult for me to walk up to someone who's smaller than me because I'm quite a short guy. But I'm pretty sure there are some shorter people. But it's like, let me give you, you're quite a big guy. You're a firefighter. You come up to me in the real world and you say, oh, because you're smaller than me, you don't have the right to exist. You should be killed. We do the same thing with babies in the womb. We say, no, because you're underdeveloped, because you're not as clever, because you're not a person yet, we look at you as less than human.
Yeah.
And this is shocking. This is shocking because we all know World War II. 70 to 80 million people killed worldwide. 55 million of those people were civilians. 4% of the world's population gone. 6.5 million Jews were exterminated. And it all started off in Germany when the government said, let's start by looking at our population and who is the most productive and who is less productive. Oh, old people serve no purpose. Mentally retarded people can't be productive workers in the workplace. We'll start by euthanizing them and killing them, and that led to World War II. We're doing the same thing now today with abortion, and it's become normal. Now, in this entire equation, you've got what we are here to talk about.
Yeah.
And that is men, Denzil. Me and you, we are both men. I think we wake up every morning and we are men. There's no way we can wake up in the morning and think, hang on, I'm not a man today, I'm a woman. Because first of all, we can't have babies.
Yeah, true.
And only a woman can have a baby. And we know in God's word, he created man and woman.
That's
He
true.
didn't create any other 276 other funny genders in between. It was man and woman. And God said, go forth and multiply and be fruitful under the covenant of marriage.
That's true.
And herein lies the problem. The world has taken the covenant of marriage. It's ripped it apart. It said women have all the rights. Men have no rights. Even though we might be the fathers of those babies, we have no say. Legally, in South Africa and in the rest of the world, if a woman falls pregnant, the man, even if he wants to keep the child and say, no, but wait, I'll take the baby. Just have the baby and I will take it. If you don't want to have anything to do with it, I will raise it. The law has got nothing that stands for us in that point. If the lady decides and says, I'm having an abortion, that guy can stand on his head and cry until he's blue in the face. There's nothing he can do. Nothing can do. Now, to think that just because you're a man, you don't have feelings, these kinds of things don't hurt. And yes, I do understand where people say to me, but Vaughan, most of the guys that are impregnating these ladies are not real men. They are messing around. When the girl falls pregnant, they are the ones saying, go have the abortion. Listen, they still need help with that kind of an attitude. They need serious counseling. They need Jesus in their life because they don't understand what life is. As Christians, we know what life is about. We understand we are created beings. We're not going through the universe as specks of dust floating around. We understand that we are created with a plan and a purpose, and we are significant in the eyes of God. And he wants all of us to have that opportunity to be saved. So men are often overlooked. And with men, listen, there are serious mental considerations to look at. I mean, I've got a few notes here, and if we can just look at this. What impact? I mean, think about it this way. Let me ask you. I don't know if we're supposed to be doing it this way. You're supposed
Go
to
for it.
ask me the
No,
questions.
you can go. It's conversational. It's fine.
How would you feel? You're a married guy.
Yes.
You got children?
Not yet.
Right. Your wife's not pregnant at the moment?
No.
Okay, so you're a single dad, almost a dad. Single man. Well, you are a married man who is got a wife, and you are both Christians. You love the Lord from the conversations that I've had with you, and you haven't had children yet.
No.
How would you feel if your wife fell pregnant and then came to you and said, Denzil, I don't think it's time yet for us to have children. I'm just starting out my career. I'm about to get promoted. If I have to take 6 months off work, maternity leave, have the baby, then I maybe might have to stay home with that child for the first 2-3 years and then have to go back to the workplace. I'm going to be too old. I want to have kids later in life. Denzil, please, let's just go and abort this child. We'll be able to have many babies after that. How is that going to make you feel?
Hey, to be honest, brother, I don't think I would handle it very well because as Christians, there's no compromise with that. So, but I'd be livid. I think I'll lose my senses.
Exactly. Now, let's say that your wife went and had the abortion anyway and you were powerless to stop it. After that baby's gone now and it's been aborted, how would that affect you?
I would not look at my wife the same way.
Right.
Ever again.
Exactly. It's something that will take a lot of hard work to get over, if ever. Now, if I can roll it back and just say, because I'm not just speaking without experience here. I'm not just speaking because I've got a computer open in front of me and I've written a few notes down. And I touched on this earlier a little bit with you. And I'll be open with the guys that are listening because I believe in making emotional connections. And as a Christian, I believe in getting uncomfortable and throwing yourself out there regardless of what the response might be. But here's a little bit of my story. I am now 46 years old. I think it's 46. I'm getting old now. I battle to remember. But 1978, I was born. Guys, 1978 means when I was born, abortion was illegal in South Africa. 1997 is when it became legal. And my mom was barely 16. She was 15 and a couple of months old when she fell pregnant with me. My dad was in his mid-20s. My adopted parents, because this is where I'm going with this. I'm an adopted child. My adopted mom told me the story. And this is what happened. My birth mother back in 1970, obviously 77, before I was actually conceived and even born, was in a relationship with a guy. She came from a very sort of blue-collar family, rough family, if you want to call it that. This guy came from a family that had multiple farms. And when she fell pregnant, his parents, although he was in his 20s already, the fact that he was having sex with my mother when she was 15, barely 16, and he was 24, tells you a story already.
True.
But his parents basically said, listen, this girl has fallen pregnant because she's after our money. There's no way that we're allowing you to marry her. He didn't want to marry her anyway. Let's just get that straight. And if this was post-1997, Denzil, and for all those that are listening, they would have just taken that young girl to the abortion clinic and they would have given her a tablet. And guess what? I would not be sitting here talking to you. This would be an empty space. I would not be alive. I wouldn't have experienced my 46 years on this planet. I wouldn't have had the opportunity to accept Jesus as my personal Lord and Savior. Without me even having a choice as a little baby who just wants to be born and live, I would have been gone before my life even started. I get goosebumps when I think about it because that's how close it. That's how close it was.
Yeah.
And she had to run away. She had to run away to her gran who lived on a farm in Queenstown in the Eastern Cape, and she had to have me quietly. Because of the stress she was under, she had me. I was born 6 weeks premature. I was rushed through to East London Hospital, and I spent the first 6 months of my life in an incubator, battling to live. I was small enough to fit in a size 3 shoebox, baby's shoebox. I was see-through. You could see my organs inside my body. Yeah. And I didn't have any interaction with people for the first 6 months of my life. I just was on machines keeping me alive. And my mom, and I call my adopted mother my real mother, my mom, she had started applying for adoption 7 years before I was even born because she couldn't have children. And as soon as the adoption agencies and the social workers had looked at her and her husband and said, okay, you guys are stable, we can now give you a child, she got a phone call and she walked into East London Hospital, and I was lying in that hospital room with a couple of other babies, and the social services officer said, here's your choices.
Wow.
All the others were healthy. My mother walked up to the incubator that I was in with this tube sticking out of me, and she turned to the social services officer, and my mom was a Christian lady. And she said to the social services officer, this is God's gift to me. This is the son that I need to take home with me. And she chose me, and I went home with her. Now, like I said, post-1997, no adoption, no nothing. I would have been snuffed out, abortion happened, bang. But the story doesn't stop there, and this is the crazy thing. I grew up in church, but I don't think I ever had a relationship with Jesus when I was younger, because I don't remember reading my Bible at home or praying at home. All I remember is my mom taking me to church, and I'm going to church because I wanted to please my mom. And this is a lesson for parents. Don't ever just think because you are Christian and you're taking your kids to church that they are now automatically Christians.
True.
They need to have a moment where they ask Jesus into their hearts and know him personally and get that relationship. So when I hit 19, I left church because I had met a girl in church, and her mother said that she'd prayed to God and God told her that her daughter mustn't marry me. So I got upset, and I obviously went, well, you know what? I've got no relationship with God now. You must remember this. So in my mind, I went, you know what? One of us is serving the wrong God here, because I believe I'm supposed to marry your daughter, and my God says that I should marry her, although I didn't know him.
Yeah.
I was deluded. Your God you're praying to says that your daughter can't marry me, so you know what? This is all nonsense. I walked out of that meeting with her mother, and I said, and I think about this, Denzil, and I think, you know what, God, you could have struck me down with lightning if you weren't gracious. You could have killed me right there and then. But I threw his own word in his face, and I said to God, as a 19-year-old lighty, I said, your word says hot or cold. If lukewarm, you're going to vomit me out your mouth. I don't want to be lukewarm, but I don't want to be hot. I want to be cold. I want to go and experience the world and do all of this. I didn't know him. If I knew him as my personal Lord and Savior for true, I would have never done that, because I would only want to be moving closer to that throne of grace. I wouldn't have been wanting to run away. I never knew Jesus. 17 years, I went crazy. I went into syndicated crime. I went into drug smuggling, gun running, human trafficking. I've done everything, the worst things on the planet. I was running towards them, wanting to do them. And that's another testimony for another day. But I met a girl years later. Wow, here's my wife now. She wanted to marry me. We got engaged. I was engaged to her for 6 years, never got married. And I remember coming home from work the one day, and she came up to me and she said, guess what? I'm pregnant. But when she said it to me, I looked at her face and I could see like
Something wasn't right.
she wasn't like completely happy. Me, I was doing double backflips, going, yay, I'm going to be a father, white picket fence, house, here we come, because I was adopted. I wanted to have my own blood that I knew was part of me, with my blood running through that child's veins. So I was like, yay, I'm ready to be a father, let's go with this thing. And it was a couple of weeks later, and I came home from work and I found my fiancée crying, and she said to me, I've had a miscarriage. Now, you must understand, me and my fiancée were crazy. We were both doing crazy amounts of drugs, doing all sorts of things. We were involved with a lot of nonsense. We were a very volatile couple, like, if I can say, natural born killers style kind of couple. We were so worldly and so out of it and so just evil. The only word that comes to mind is evil. There was no God in this picture, no God in this relationship. It was completely human and all about the flesh. And I felt sorry for her because she had a miscarriage. And I was there for her, even though I was feeling bad. And it came out months later when we were having one of our fat arguments. She threw it in my face and said, you know what? I didn't have a miscarriage. We aborted your baby.
Shit.
And it knocked me like a concrete slab being thrown into my face. Bang! And I thought to myself, no, you're lying. You're talking nonsense. It was just because we're having an argument you said this. There's no way you would have aborted my child. She says, phone my mother. Phone her and ask her. Don't even talk to me, phone her. I phoned her mother. I said, hey, your daughter just said to me that you guys aborted my baby. Yes!
Ooh.
I drove her to the abortion clinic and paid for the abortion. I was broken. I said to her, but why did you do this? She said, you really think that I want my daughter having your baby? You are an evil person involved in the most vile things on the planet. Why do you think my daughter hasn't married you? It's because I've told her to stay engaged to you and not marry you because I don't want you as my son-in-law. Do you think I want to be the grandmother to your child? And in my darkest place, Denzil, even in that place, I said to her, so wait, you killed my child because of things that I was doing wrong. That baby's innocent. And this is the thing. If someone is raping women and is a rapist, serial pedophile or whatever, they get tried, convicted, they go to jail. Do you go to that person's son or daughter who's alive, grab that child and convict them for their father's sin? You don't do stuff like that. But my child was aborted, Denzil, because of my sin. And let me tell you, for those out there that think this does not affect you as a man, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of men out there that are affected by this. I wouldn't say I was suicidal, but that broke my relationship completely. I couldn't even look at my fiancée anymore. I had to leave her. I found myself doing the craziest things, hoping that I would die. Putting myself into situations where I could be killed all the time. And it's just the height of craziness. When I thought that I couldn't get any lower and I had lost everything, I was now homeless on the street, sleeping in a petrol station toilet, I was very, very fortunate. I don't want to say lucky because I don't really believe in luck, although my surname is Luck. I don't believe in luck. I was fortunate because, you know what, God still was watching me. I don't know why, but I do know why now, because my mom told me for those 17 years that I was away from God, she continually prayed for me and prayed that one day maybe something will happen that her son can come back to the Lord. And I remember being homeless on the street in a petrol station toilet and me waking up and feeling like someone shook me. And I thought maybe the security guard had found me, but it must have been the Holy Spirit, because all of a sudden in my brain, and I didn't know what this was, I had two words: repentance and confession. And I knew that I needed to repent and confess. And through a long, long story that only God could have put together, I ended up in a place where I could get help, understand who God was. And on 31st of December, 11:37, the moment, that's what I'm saying, every person needs a moment. If you can't have a moment in your life where you go, this was the moment when I asked Jesus into my heart and he changed me, go and start praying, find a quiet place and talk to your Father, because you need to find that moment. 31st of December 2014, got down on my hands and knees at 11:37 in the evening on New Year's Eve and said, Father, I want you in my life. 1st of January 2015, I want to wake up as a new person. And that's what happened. We are now sitting in this studio, fast forward 2024.
10 years later.
And I'm talking to you as a 10-year-old Christian, which I still feel is very young, if I have to be honest with you. I don't feel like I'm an old, mature Christian at all. I think I've still got a lot to learn. But I'm passionate about people. And I'm passionate about the pro-life movement, not just because of my experiences, but because of what the Bible tells us. You don't have to just quote the pro-life verses. Read the Bible cover to cover.